it was a revelation to me to understand that, man, you can do stuff in a very simple way, be super productive, and still have a ton of fun doing it without killing yourself 14 hours in the office and doing all this other stuff. They showed me a different way of doing things instead of just showing up early, going home at midnight, and making sure everything gets done. It was really the systems and processes that they had in place. To me, I still use most of them to this day. So it was, to me, that was revolutionary from what I thought coaching would be.
On today's podcast, we share the coaching journey of Coach Matt Myers, who's the head football coach at Kansas Wesleyan, and he's pointed out to me that he is not a classically trained coach. So we're going to understand what that means, as well as what he's been able to do to take over a program that's had success. He was a player there, an assistant coach, now the head coach, and we're going to learn a lot about what he does to continue that success, as well as how his background has affected this. So, Coach, great to have you here on the podcast.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on.
So let's start from the beginning for you. And as I mentioned in the introduction, you said, I'm not a classically trained coach. To you, what does that mean?
I played college football, small college football at an NAIA school, Kansas Wesleyan, turns out. And I did that in two sections. I did that when I was 19 years old, coming back from junior college. And then when I was going into my junior year of football, I had an injury, so I dropped out of college for the next 6 years. Over that time, I got married, I moved to Memphis, I bought a house, I put my wife through optometry school, started a small business in my garage. And then when I was 26, she completed school and I came back to college. And just so happened that Matt Drinkall, Vince Phillip, and John Micheletti were introduced as the new coaching staff at Kansas Wesleyan. So I came back to play football for those guys.
They did a tremendous job there. Obviously, we've had Matt on the podcast several times, and I met Matt, I think, in 2017, his first appearance on the podcast. And I was so impressed with what this young guy was doing to build a program. And you saw the results, right? I mean, really a turnaround in a program that is at the top of the national rankings now in NAIA, and you guys are doing an outstanding job. So talk to us a little bit about, I guess, that transition for you, going from being a 26-year-old player to a 29-year-old graduate, volunteer coach, and where it went from there.
Right. So after I was done playing, I was living in Manhattan, Kansas, which is an hour away. My shop is still in Salina. So I was coming back and I was just helping out where I could. Spring ball, I helped out with those guys. It was a very natural transition. They're, basically my peers. The coordinator was my age. Drinkall was a few years older than me. Mick was a few years younger than me. So, they were just like my buddies. I just wanted to hang out with my buddies, kind of. So I started coaching with them. I volunteered for 2 years until Joe Morrissey took a job in Knoxville and left. There was an opening. And Drinkall, gave me the opportunity to come and coach full-time. And my wife was transitioning back to Salina, so it just kind of matched up in a really good way. And that started in 2018. So all of my coaching experience up till then had been purely volunteering, helping out where I could. In the 16-17 season, and in 18, I got a full-time job. So I got to get out of the garage and into an office and learning how, the ins and outs of how an NII program operates.
When you look at those first years of coaching, now you got a business going, right? That's certainly a focus. But you're trying to absorb this new aspect of being a football coach. What were the most impactful things you learned in those years? As you said, not classically trained, probably meaning you didn't go through the GA, intern, all that kind of stuff. You're volunteering, you're learning on the fly. What were the things that made the most impact on you and really are part of who you are as a coach now?
So I start coaching, I don't know. I've played in their defensive system. I've watched his offensive system, but you think of coaching as like you're going to show up, you're going to coach a lot of football, you're going to design new plays, new schemes, watch a lot of film, and really at the small college level, you do everything but that until, it's time to do that. So the scheme and philosophy behind it, what I began to understand is that it has to be simple. Like everything we do has to be super simple, and then you can offset, how fast you run your offense or what you're going to install into your defense that year or week to week. But really what I learned was these coaches are doing everything, just based on, departments and personnel and, what has to get done. So the football side of stuff, based on the amount of time that you have during the day with yourself, the staff, and the players, it has to be very simple. So all the brilliant ideas I may have thought I had, at that time, weren't brilliant ideas. It was just, it was probably more hassle, and it was just too much. You can really out-coach yourself at times. And that's something that Coach Drinkall and Vince Phillip and John Micheletti, who, by the way, those two guys just got head coaching jobs also, they taught me. I mean, it was a revelation to me to understand that, man, you can do stuff in a very simple way, be super productive, and still have a ton of fun doing it without killing yourself 14 hours in the office and doing all this other stuff. They showed me a different way of doing things instead of just showing up early, going home at midnight, and making sure everything gets done. It was really the systems and processes that they had in place. To me, I still use most of them to this day. So it was, to me, that was revolutionary from what I thought coaching would be.
Another unique aspect of what you guys have done at Kansas Wesleyan is the work environment there. When I got to know Matt, we became friends on Facebook after his first interview on the Coaching Coordinator podcast. And I started to follow you guys through the season and just could see by the pictures he's posting, like, wow, this looks like a very fun place to work. And then I think it was 2018 San Antonio. There was the Kansas Wesleyan scooter gang that seemed to be all over the place with Matt leading the charge there. And, watching you guys around the convention, that, again, verifying, man, these guys have a lot of fun coaching. And, and then I got Matt on and said, what is it? What do you guys do? And he talked about just how he views it and what he can do to really bring value to you guys and to make this a rewarding experience. So what did you learn from that aspect, and how does that continue on with what you're doing as a head coach?
Yeah, so the work-life balance is a huge deal, especially at our level. I know Coach Drinkall talked about it a ton, and he told us too. He said, I can't compensate you, more than X, right? So how do you compensate your staff without giving them actual money, right? Well, cash basket is what Andy would like to give to everybody, but you can't do that all the time. So what he did give us was time, all right? So, our systems are in place, your protocols are in place from, everything you do. So that's defined on the front end. Well, on the back end of that, we don't have to show up at 6 a.m., have a staff at super early and then, work with the kids and all day long, and then, staff at the end of the day. Everyone kind of knew their role, whichever that was. When I first started, I was in academics. So I spent my day doing a lot of work with our guys on academics, and outside of that, like, we could show up at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and get our work done and then leave at a reasonable time, especially when we're not in practice and cutting film and watching film in season, stuff like that. So it's super beneficial. In 2017, I had my firstborn, Madden, and John Micheletti, who was going into his first year as a defensive coordinator, was going to have his first boy that fall. So if you can imagine, right? I mean, I'm sure a lot of coaches out there have gone through this. Like, you have a kid, like, you're really stressed out, you got to do a lot of work. Well, Drinkall had everything so ironed out on the front end that the work would get done, and if it didn't get done, like, right, we'd hear about it, like, you would know. But as long as it got done, we didn't have to be there for 12, 14 hours a day killing ourselves to do the work. It really becomes the environment that he created is something that, I mean, I try to create. Now, I do it probably in a little bit different way than Coach Drinkall did. I mean, he's highly intelligent and, very funny. He knows a lot of different stuff. And I've sat in staff meetings with him for a couple hours, and we went over, we'll just zoom around on Google Earth and look at different places. Like, I've done that in staff meetings. Just check out other cool spots on the planet. Like, we're sitting downstairs in the basement of Kansas Wesleyan, and he's like, that's what we're doing for that staff meeting, just to, kind of take some of the pressure off and have some fun and, play. I mean, how many hours of blitz, NFL blitz did I play on N64? I don't know. It was a lot. And sometimes that was our day at the office, or, a piece of our day at the office. So it wasn't just grind. And then at the end, like, what if you don't get the result that you were expecting? You're not as defeated if you don't get exactly what you expected out of the time that you put in.
As you look at the program moving forward, you've served as the defensive coordinator, now overseeing the whole program. How do you envision handling everything and being able to understand here's what we're doing on offense, here's what we need as far as the overall team game plan and complementary football, overseeing things, seeing the special teams, what's going on with strength and conditioning, the whole thing now for you? What things are you focused on to help you make that transition and manage that effectively?
the number one thing is communication. So when I talk to my staff, like I hired a strength and speed guy. I've been doing it for the last couple of years, which you're going to talk about not classically trained. You know, I took John Micheletti's programming and I just implemented it. Most of the guys on staff that I hired, by the way, they graduated from Kansas Wesleyan. So they've been through the Drinkall systems and protocols. I'll just call them Drinkall systems and protocols so everyone knows that I'm not trying to take credit for them. Now, to put some spin on it and do some different things, like I went out and I hired an offensive coordinator who runs a very similar offense to Drinkall. So there won't be big gaps in learning for our kids. I did a couple things to get him and Coach Bauer and Drinkall together, to help meld those two together. So when the guys that we have coming back, they walked in the spring ball feeling very, very confident in what we were doing and the plan, that I have for them. And it's the Drinkall plan. You're going to go as fast as humanly possible. We'll slow you down when we need to, and we're not going to install, a playbook that is super, super thick. I would keep everything very simple. Defensively, I had the guy that helped me on defense last year. We hired him last July. Went through the entire fall with me last year. We changed up a few things this spring, but I'd really like to hand that responsibility off to him. Coach Leonard, who's really qualified, played at Wyoming. Dude's been in Salina for a long time, like I know he's going to be around. And then Coach Photo played quarterback here for us, was All-American 2 years in a row. Then I have the 3 GAs who all played here. The staff that I built, they don't have a lot of experience either, but they're really, really, really good dudes. All right, so they're very responsive. They communicate extremely well. And so I don't have to babysit or worry about what they're doing. I can give them an assignment and a task and know that it's going to get done, especially the guys that have been here. You first get into coaching, especially I think back to, even at 18 when I got hired full-time after I was done volunteering, I was lost. Like I'd sit at my computer all day going, all right, what do I do next? And it takes a little bit of time to, really understand the flow of how everything works and operates. But if you hire people that have already been through the systems and processes like my GAs, like Coach Photo and my strength and speed guy, I don't have to worry about those guys. I know exactly what they're doing. And then the coordinators I can kind of help with as needed. So my goal as the head coach is to not be calling plays. I want to focus on behaviors of our team. People call it culture, I guess, a lot. I mean, culture is just the decisions you make and the actions that you take. So I don't talk about culture a lot. I try to break it down into smaller categories that the players can understand, that the coaches can understand, and that I can evaluate. I mean, even on myself, so I talk a lot about loyalty.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. How do you make that measurable, loyalty, right? I mean, kind of an abstract idea, not necessarily something you see black and white, but for you, how do you make it black and white?
Historically, everyone tells you, like, what do you got to be a football team, right? Like, what is good culture? Well, it's got to be tough, smart, like toughness and being smart and like kind of crazy every once in a while or whatever. I kind of look at toughness as like, okay, well, like physical toughness is what it brings to mind to me all the time. And a lot of the times of what I see, especially with young guys, is like they can be super physically tough. Like they can slam into somebody, get up, wipe it off, go to the next play, no big deal. The problem is you lose a little bit of mental toughness, and when you're going through college life, like you need to have a set of measurables. So when I talk about loyalty to our guys, I did this as a defensive coordinator the last 2 years, and I think it helped them evaluate themselves, evaluate their peers, and evaluate the coaching staff also. When I talk about loyalty, I give them 3 things, and it's as simple as it can humanly get. You got to show up on time. Very important caveat. But you show up, you're prepared, and you give maximum effort. Okay, so I don't care if you're going to the classroom, you're going to the weight room, practice, a game. It doesn't matter. If you go to your first job, if you go to raise your child, if you go to be a football coach, in my opinion, if you do those 3 things, that to me is loyalty. You're loyal to yourself, to your teammates, to the staff, to your children, to your wife. It doesn't matter. That's something that they can go, okay, perfect. I now know what I have to do to fit into this program and the standards that we have. And then, after that, I can talk about resiliency and adaptability and all that stuff. But the baseline of everything is, showing up, obviously. But I just tell them it's loyalty. So if you're disloyal, so let's say you show up late. All right. That doesn't mean you're disloyal. It means that you've failed to hold the standard of what I believe loyalty is, right? So now they know. So like this spring, for instance, guys show up late. They fail to communicate, right? Communication's huge. They don't tell us they're going to be late for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. They show up late, lack of loyalty. I whipped out this wheel that Drinkall used to spin for punishment. So we call it the loyalty wheel, and found it in the equipment room. I was like, we got to get this back out. And the players loved it because they know before, you walk in late without a text message to the guy that takes attendance. Well, guess what? Lack of communication, not showing up, done deal. You can suffer the consequences of being disloyal in that sense. Now, that doesn't mean you get kicked off the team and you're a bad person. It just means that, you messed up a little bit, and I can build a loyal person through those three metrics. Now, maximum effort is kind of hard to gauge, but I think everyone kind of know when someone's going all out or not. Like try to explain to someone sitting in the classroom what maximum effort is. Well, I shouldn't have to, but you sit in the front row, you put your phone away, take your hat off or whatever, be super respectful, make eye contact, be interested in what's going on. Maximum effort in the classroom. Are you prepared? It just kind of, it builds itself into its own thing, and then the kids can run with it. Because if I show up to a meeting and I'm not prepared, they know. You know what I'm saying? Like, they know I don't know what I'm talking about. The PowerPoint's not right. I misspelled a bunch of words. I actually made two of the same sheets or whatever. Like, Myers isn't all put together today. Well, now I give them a measurement that they can go, yeah, okay, sure, not prepared. Well, that's not good. My 5-year-old knows if I'm not prepared in some sense of the word. I don't know. I could talk about this for a long time, but that's how I describe it to them, so they can measure themselves, the team, the staff, whoever it is that they're going to be interacting with.
So we've got to bring it up because it's been a while, but the wheel, I know that's come up on the podcast before, but go ahead and remind the listeners what the wheel is.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So it's just like a game wheel that you spin. It's got like different, we can write down different punishments, right? Well, I say, and sometimes the punishments can be more fun than you would think. Cause like, it's easy. Like, all right, 100 up downs or body drags or, you're rolling or whatever. But really, and this is a big thing Drinkall always did, was that I love to do. Like, I don't think punishing the individual that was late or that, had a behavior issue is always the right way. Like, I'll make him pick some guys that will do the punishment for him. I'll punish the team, make him watch. So some of the things that we'll write on there is like, it's 100 up downs, but it's not for you, it's for your teammates. And so then the accountability level of that individual goes way up, right? Like, okay, I'm not just affecting myself anymore. I'm affecting, 89 other guys, which becomes a huge problem when you got, a bunch of dudes staring at you and being like, you can't just show up one time and or send a text message because you're going to be late coming from work or whatever. Like, problems can kind of solve themselves when you let the team, kind of handle it. And that involves, in a way, punishing them. Now, every once in a while on the wheel, I'll give them free spaces too, right? Because I'll just tell them, like, in life, like you guys are going to mess up when you guys go out in the world. And every once in a while, you're just going to get away with it. You'll be fine. No one will even know the difference. There's your free space, yeah. Right? Get a couple free spaces. I don't think we landed on one, but whatever.
There's the chance.
Yeah, there's a chance.
Well, I have one for you to add to it. And when I was at BW, I think it was Tom Watts, who's the head coach at Ohio Wesleyan here now, and he taught me the worm drill. I said, "What's the worm drill?" He goes, "You have them, get them down. They're lying on their belly, and they need to go, however many yards ahead. They can't roll. They can't use their arms. They can't get on their knees. They literally have to move like a worm, and it just crushes their core. Like the guys get up and say that was the worst thing I've ever had to do in football."
Oh, a centipede, maybe. Is it just on your hands?
It's not even on your hands. Your hands are behind your back. You have to keep your torso in contact with the ground. So it's not an inchworm. You're not pushing forward with like your knees and raising your torso off the ground. You have to just get that movement from your torso, and it just gets their core. Yeah. That one, the guys told me the feedback on that one is the worst thing they ever had to do. And they'd only have to go like 10 yards. They'd be like, that crushed me. So there you go. There's a slot for you, worm drill.
It'll be on there for sure.
Well, Coach, as you said, and we started with non-classically trained coach. I know there's a lot of guys out there who get into this profession and maybe they don't know everything. And you've admitted that. You've been learning on the fly. You've said maybe there's guys coming in my program who know more. So what's been the factor for you really that's given you success in your approach to being able to move forward in this profession?
Well, there's been a couple big things that happened, I think, for myself and us here at Kansas Wesleyan. So there's a guy named Travis Johansen that came down and clinicked us up on his defense. He was at Grandview, and now he's up at South Dakota. Really good dude.
Yeah, he's been on the podcast. I'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, he honestly, he came in, and Drinkall brought him down. He clinicked us up for a day, and maybe it was a half a day. And he kind of just he did a couple things, but he explained structures and ways to do things that I never even thought of before. And it was really, really eye-opening to me just to sit down and watch. Because I don't, once again, when I say classically trained, I didn't go to all these clinics. I didn't GA. I didn't go through to a bunch of clinics. I didn't have a ton of access to a lot of different people. But, Drinkall introduced us to Travis, and he came down and really clinicked us up and let us know, kind of the stuff that he does and that's worked for him. And Coach Mick took that and ran with it. And I was coaching linebackers for him at the time. And then going forward, then it's you kind of get to see the value of meeting with other people and checking in with them. I think that was in end of 2017, maybe spring of 18, maybe we did that. It was so beneficial, and I think that's the fun part about coaching or going to the AFCA, clinicking with different people and just meeting with them. I'm going to try to get with another guy next week about some analytics stuff that he's going to walk me through. And most of all these people that I know, directly result of Drinkall and he was an incredible marketer. He marketed himself on Twitter, Facebook. He's got great content. He's got 1 billion followers. He's verified, right? He just does an incredible job at it. But really, on the back end of it, he forces you to go talk to other people, meet other people. I mean, he's an Army right now, right? Everyone probably knows that. Wes Fleming's also at Army. So I got with Wes last summer, talked a little bit of defense with him before we went into the fall season. And then this spring, we really went hard with it this winter, for the spring. So we could really start, kind of implementing some of their baseline schemes. Now they're way too complicated for us, but really just their base level schemes for us, man. I think it's going to work great. And I spent time with him. I got my DC with him, on a couple Zoom calls, and it's very, very beneficial. Now, the scary thing to me is trying to learn everything. I've kind of been slowly learning, like everyone probably does. But, you can get on YouTube and watch YouTube videos for, a year about football.
Right.
It's all on there. Every coach is on there talking about everything, and it's really good stuff. You're like, oh, man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, when I got into coaching, Coach Drinkall, I watched him clinic 1,000 times, right? We always would go around watching clinic, fantastic. And he always talked about this one thing. It was it's like a cafeteria offense, he would call it, right? Well, I like this, I like this, I like this, and you just start grabbing random stuff. You put them on your plate. By the end of the time you get through the buffet, you look at your plate, and a lot of the stuff doesn't mesh well together. You got gummy worms, topping your spaghetti or whatever. If you're just not paying attention to what you're doing. So the reason why I say that is because I think the same way. I don't have enough time in the day to learn it all, to really master it in my mind, to relate it to the coaching staff, your assistant coaches, and then so they can relate it to the players. When we go into the fall, I expect everything that we're going to do that fall to be installed in August, okay? So, there's no brand new plays or schemes or systems that we're going to set up just to stop one thing. Now, we're running a triple option team. It's different, obviously, but outside of that, I'm more focused on alignment and assignment and then getting the absolutely the best players we can find. The best athletically, but also the ones that can hold up to the standard of Kansas Wesleyan that was set a long time ago and my standard of loyalty. If you can do that, you're just going to have a ton of success over and over and over again, repeated success.
Coach, I've been watching your program, as I said, for a while. It's a fun program to watch. I believe you guys will have continued success, and I know you appreciate the growth you've had along the way. But looking at what you do as a coach, what's the one thing you do that really gives your team, your players, the winning edge?
It's what I focus on. When I go and talk to our defense, when I talk to our team now, I get the whole team now. I'm focused on behaviors. Okay, like are you doing everything right? I don't care what you're doing. Like a big thing that I was told when I was coming up in coaching is you're either coaching it or allowing it to happen. That was a big one. And also, Coach Drinkall said this, by the way, but he always said this. He said, I will lose with winners and win with winners. He's like, I don't care. Like, I need guys that are going to do everything right. Because if you don't have that, if I don't focus on behaviors, if I'm only into scheme and our next opponent and what our guys are doing on the field, it really takes the onus off of what is really important, which is, academics, getting a college degree. But that also affects eligibility. If I'm dealing with behavioral issues off the field, it really takes time away. Like I remember just go through those falls where, some guys will get in trouble every once in a while and you're spending time in an office with them instead of game planning and working with your staff. So I think if I can effectively direct this team to manage their behaviors to the standard that I believe that they should be at, which is very easily defined. The first meeting we have, it'll be defined in very simple terms that everyone, my 5-year-old, can understand. And if I can do that, then success will come with the way we recruit and the stuff that the administration lets us do in our facilities and all the incredible stuff that we have. We'll go out and recruit and find really, really good, talented players, and that everyone that comes in the door can hold up to that standard. That's how you have repeated success. So,
Coach, what's the best way for our listeners to connect with you?
I'm listed on KW's website. My Twitter handle is Myers_KWU. My email is Matthew.Myers, MYERS @KWU. So if anyone wants to email me, get together, Zoom call. We'll be around a lot this summer. Obviously, the fall gets a little crazy, but we love to get with, whoever. It doesn't matter. Like I usually learn at least one new thing, no matter who I'm talking to, especially with younger coaches, or not even younger coaches, but coaches like high school coaches. I love talking to high school coaches because they're delivering information to younger students than we have. They're doing it with 14, 15, 16-year-olds. I think that's incredible. That is a monumental task. Whoever wants to, get together and rap about what we do or how we do it, I'm always around.
Well, Coach, best of luck to you. The torch has been passed on again at Kansas Wesleyan, and so you're carrying it forward for what began when you were 26 years old there. So best of luck to you guys. We'll be following you, and go get some more wins in 2022.
Absolutely. Appreciate you a ton.